All right, thanks everyone for coming. I'm Chris Barr, my pen name NotADoc, because I'm trying to spread the word to use doctors when you need them and not at the drop of a hat. I'm not a doc to get people to learn to take care of themselves, and they'll be better off. There's a place for doctors, but it's a little tiny place. The farther you get outside of that place, the more problems you have. So we want to help people to not have so many problems. I'm talking today about CBD, cannabidiol, or cannabidiol, depending on who you talk to. I'm not sure which is the correct pronunciation. I've heard both. What is CBD? Well, it comes from a plant. That plant is Cannabis sativa. Now, some people that might give them thoughts of horror. Other people will go, what's that? Well, cannabis comes in different forms. The form that's most commonly known as marijuana, but that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about cannabis sativa in another form that's called hemp. Okay, now, when you grow cannabis in a particular fashion, it comes up in a different way, and that's called hemp. When you grow it in another fashion, it has a high THC content, and people use it to get high. It does have some healing values besides that. But we're talking about hemp because we're talking about CBD, which is in either variety. It's in both varieties of cannabis. But one's illegal, and we don't want to tread there. CBD was only discovered 25 years ago, 1992. And they rapidly began to note its effect in the nervous system. And that's what we're here today, is to talk about the wonders of CBD. Now, I've known about this for quite some time, and I've told people for the last few years, well, if they ask, what about CBD? I said, well, if you want to look into CBD, look at CV Sciences. They're ahead of the field, ahead of everybody, and they still are. And recently, actually the beginning of this year, I began working with it myself, with people, and have seen extraordinary benefits in people. Sometimes in people that can't get benefit any other way, because it's so extraordinary for the nervous system. It feeds the nervous system. It's very amazing, unique and amazing in the way that it works. People are used to taking drugs in this society today for all kinds of things, and especially for the nervous system. Xanax is one of the most popular. It goes back decades. People use it to just cope in society. And called benzodiazepines. There's a whole class of drugs like that. And they help people to cope, to get through strenuous, difficult, because their nervous system is compromised or shot, as the case may be. Well, the way that benzodiazepines work is by suppressing the nervous system. So you're able to cope because it's suppressing the nervousness, the anxiety. Well, CBD actually works from the opposite direction, and it actually works better because drugs are suppressive. No matter what the drug is, no matter what people are taking it for, their general use is suppression. They're looking to suppress a problem. Well, the CBD oil works by feeding the nervous system and strengthening the nervous system. So people are able to cope because now their nerves are fed instead of being rubbed raw or damaged. Oftentimes it is damaged. It causes people to need these drugs. They've been damaged as people, emotionally, physically, in a number of different ways. And sometimes just the stresses of the day that we live. And so by feeding the nervous system, we're able to see people, we've seen people get off of these benzodiazepines, and sometimes very quickly. Now, because it's cannabis, a lot of people think, oh, that's marijuana. Well, again, that's a whole other system of history we could get into. That the name marijuana is a fairly new name. It was actually applied back in the 1930s. I mean, it existed before then, but it began to be popularized by people who were against people using it. So it's cannabis sativa. Now, I've been wearing hemp for decades because it feels better, it's more comfortable. It's also the longest lasting natural fiber. In fact, when the government first made it illegal back in the 30s, which was for commercial business reasons and for political reasons. When World War II broke out, they gave a special dispensation for farmers because, you see, they knew that hemp was tremendously beneficial. So for the war effort, they allowed hemp after it had only for a few years cannabis had been illegal, which is in any form. They allowed cannabis in hemp form to be grown for the war effort. And when the war ended, they made it illegal again. Okay. Now, I've been wearing it for decades, but you can't get hemp clothes from products grown in America because it's still against the law in America. It's a terrible tragedy. I've told people for years, well, you can't get hemp in the land of the free and the home of the brave. You have to get it from communist nations because that's where I got my hemp from. Canada has now legalized growing it. Now, I haven't seen any in this country yet, although maybe it's just because I haven't come across it. But all the hemp that I've been using personally for years, decades, has come from Romania, when it was still a communist nation, Hungary, Poland, China, So it's amazing that communist nations we can get hemp from, but not from the land of the free and the home of the brave. Now, it's a tragedy that now that we're finding out since 1992, the tremendous applications of this CBD oil. I guess probably one of the greatest difficulties with it is that it's very specific from one individual to another. And that's kind of been the way that they're trying to suppress it now, one of the ways. There are other ways. But one of the ways they're trying to suppress it is by saying, well, we need to have more studies so we can find uniformity in use of CBD. Well, by taking that stance, you'll never use it. Because the thing about CBD is it's very personal specific, very person specific. Some people do very well with a very small amount. Now, not very many people do very well with a small amount, but some do. And again, depending on the person and their own nervous system is going to depend on how they function with it. So, the best way that I have found for people is to use high-dose CBD at first. Now, a lot of people, especially those that are in the industry, tell people to start small, and if it doesn't work, to use a little, or if you don't get good results, to use a little more, and to keep increasing it until you feel better results. Well, especially in America today, people are very oriented to results, and if they're not getting results after a few days, well, they might increase the amount once, or they might not. This isn't working. Well, we now know, since discovering these CBD and these CBD oil, we now know that there are endocannabinoid receptors in the human body, literally from the top of your head to the sole of your feet. It's not just here and there. Our body is filled with receptors that nothing fits in there except cannabinoids. Now, yes, THC is one of those cannabinoids, and that's the reason people can smoke hemp, not hemp, because hemp won't do anything at all if you smoke it. There's little or no THC there. But if you smoke marijuana, which has to be grown a completely different way, that's why you can get high, because it gets into those endocannabinoid receptors. But those endocannabinoid receptors that, again, are all throughout your body, also are very receptive. They're perfect fits for CBD oil, which feeds the nerves and feeds the nervous system. And this is what I'm so excited to see in so many people in the last several months. And again, you can choose whether you want to go with the way that's commonly, we'll use a little bit and then use a little bit more until you get results, or what I have found to be most successful is to use a higher amount of CBD, higher amount of milligrams, and you'll get results much more quickly. You'll feel the difference. In fact, in the vast majority of everyone that I've worked with, I start them on a purified 60 milligram dose, and the response in almost every case within 10 to 20 minutes is, can it work this fast? Because people feel, well, to use different words, expressions I've been told, I feel chilled. I feel calmer. I feel mellow. They just start feeling, one man told me, man, I feel like I've had 2 beers. Okay, so there's different ways that people express, this makes me feel better. Well, it's because it's feeding. It's not a drug. It's not a euphoria. Because it's so effective, I've had people, ask me or express concern, well, I can't drive with this then. No, it doesn't drug you. It doesn't make you unable to function. It just calms the nerves because it's feeding the nervous system. It's feeding the nerves. So I'm very excited about that. The CV Sciences has, they've had 2 different forms. They've actually added a brand new form that I guess I won't even talk about today because it's brand new. Maybe I'll mention it. They have a brand new form. It's called Raw, that is just unprocessed hemp with CBD oil. It's a very low dose, but raw has become very popular in some circles to eat raw food, to do things raw. So I guess they're reaching out for that marketplace. But what they have done primarily is, I have on my right here, green and gold. Well, the green is a total plant concentrate. Okay? Now, and sadly again, these products, these are all grown outside of this nation. They are processed outside of this nation, and then they are shipped as a finished product, because the finished product is legal in 50 states. However, there are restrictions in some of those states. So it's kind of a catch there. For instance, in the state of Texas, it's legal, but only for someone who has tremors or seizures if they've been to a minimum of 2 physicians and used at least 2 other medical treatments first. And if those don't work, then the doctor can prescribe CBD for them. So a few states have restrictions like that. So it's legal in Texas, but only if you jump through hoops. I'm glad to be working in many other states that don't have such restrictions. Okay? And so the green, well, all the products here are grown and processed somewhere else and then shipped into the country. Because you're still not allowed to grow hemp in America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. You have to get it from somewhere else. At least I guess we've come forward, because it used to have to come from communist nations. Now it comes from some nations that aren't communist, so I guess that's progress. But not America still. So the green is a total plant concentrate. It comes from not the flowers and not the roots where the THC is concentrated, but from the center, the stalk of the plant. From non-THC containing points. That's what makes it legal. It's just CBD oil. Now with the total plant concentrate, it's the whole plant. So the doses are lower, but you also have some chlorophyll, some essential fatty acids, there's some nutrients in there. Now it's small amounts, but it's very nourishing for the body in general in small amounts. And you get some CBD with it. For instance, with this total plant concentrate, total plant complexes comes in unflavored and it comes in flavored. 2 sprays will give you 1 milligram of CBD. Now, if you get the extra strength version, then two sprays of this will give you 3 milligrams. Okay. Well, that's not very much. And for a few people, that will give some benefit. Basically, if you start using 1 milligram or 3 milligrams a day, over a period of days, more likely weeks, maybe a month or so, you'll start to feel more calm. Okay. Now, some people will get faster results with that. Not very many, but some will. So what I have done is encourage people to use the gold. Now, to give you a difference, the gold is distillation, I forget how to say it now. It's a distillation process from the total plant concentrate. So this one ounce bottle has 1 milligram for 2 sprays. This 1 ounce bottle has 3 milligrams in half of a dropper full. In other words, 5 drops will give you 1 milligram that it takes 2 sprays of this to get that 1 milligram. So I really encourage people to get those starving endocannabinoid receptors filled up. Get them rejuvenated. Use the gold formula. And then after you do, and you'll get better results, you'll get faster results that way. Now, every once in a while, someone is so sensitive that they can't handle that much, and they do very well with the green. Like I said, you can choose, you want to start small and see if it'll work. That won't work well for many people, but it will for some. So I prefer to start with the gold, because if I find that one rare individual here and there that, oh, it's just too much for them, and by too much it's just they don't feel right, they don't feel drugged, they don't feel high, it just doesn't seem to help them, and they use that little bit of the green and that worked for them, great. But that's very few people in my experience with this. So I tell people to use the gold for 4 to 6 weeks, build the system up, and then you may be able to take smaller doses. Now, not everybody can take smaller doses after a while, but most people can. And some people switch entirely from using the gold and they start taking the green and not even using the gold anymore because they get that much repaired into their system. There are a variety of delivery mechanisms. There is an applicator that you can utilize that's basically it's a syringe without a needle, and you just pop 1 click and you'll get, in this case, 3 grams per click, and this 10 grams per click. And you can monitor the amount that you get, getting 10 milligrams or 20 or 30 or 40. There's a concentrated form that'll give you 60 milligrams, and I often start people with just 1 dose, see how that feels. And again, the common response from almost everybody is, can it work this fast? Yes, it can. So you can get a much more highly concentrated form, such as this gram jar here, where you can get 240 milligrams in that little tiny amount that you probably can't even see from the camera there. Okay, so you can take 60 milligram doses that way. So there's a variety of ways, and then you can take now soft gels that will give you 15 milligrams in a pill. Some people don't like, in fact, I don't really know anybody that likes the taste of CBD. And some people really don't like it. I tell them, I said, well, get over it or pay more money, because the more convenient it is, the more money it's going to cost. And I can tell you pretty much across the board with CV Sciences products, the higher the dosage, the less the cost. So a 1 milligram dose will cost more per milligram than a 3 milligram. A 3 milligram dose will cost more per milligram than a 5 milligram dose mechanism. It's just built in that way. So the more you're getting, the less it's going to be. So deal with the taste. You'll save money, and you also get better results that way because it absorbs directly, subliminally into the body when you do it that way. Now the company tells people if they want to use the gels and the gel caps to bite them and break them open. I kind of laugh when I hear that because like, well, why don't you just use the applicator then, or why don't you use, if you're going to bite it anyway.
That's right.
Because if you swallow it, you're not going to get that 10 to 20 minute result because it has to go down the gullet into the gut. It's got to be digested, it's got to be broken up, and then pass through the villi and the small intestine, get in the bloodstream. Well, that's going to take a while. And the number 2 selling class of drugs in America today is stomach drugs for digestion problems. So people in America don't digest things well anyway. So if you want to take the long, slow boat to China, so you don't have to taste it, it still works, it just takes longer. Okay? It's actually been quite amusing and amazing to me, especially when I first started working with so many people and getting that, can it work this fast, so often, so commonly. Had one woman who didn't even have any issues, we were just talking to her about helping other people, and said, here, taste them, so she'd know what it tastes like. We didn't really think anything about, oh, here, she'll feel better, because we didn't know, but I do remember her talking in the past that she gets tension headaches, and she just learned to live with them, so she doesn't, I've known her long enough to know she has them periodically, but she just doesn't complain about it. And she was another one that after 10, 15 minutes, she said, can it work this fast? Kind of wrinkled my brow and said, well, yes, it does, but why? Well, I had one of my tension headaches and it's subsiding. So see, we didn't even know. She didn't know. She didn't take it for a headache. She just was trying it so she could see how it tastes and okay, so she could tell people, you know, how taking it. And she, not looking for any results at all, found her tension headache subsiding. You know, I hear people talking about their migraine headaches and using it and how much relief that they get from using CBD. In fact, one way that's used, especially when it comes to migraines, is externally. And this is the balm. Literally, this is the balm. It comes in a green balm and a gold balm. It's actually the same formula, it's just the gold is much more concentrated. The same as with the green and the gold formula in the liquids and in the capsules. See, you can get a gold formula capsule that has 10 milligrams, or you can get the gold that has 15. It's just a matter of how much strength. The green is very good for skin issues, healing skin issues of various types, whether it's, people use it for eczema, psoriasis. Recently we're finding women that are using it for tightening up their skin, for wrinkles, which I would never have thought of. Of course, I don't really care about such things. But we've seen before and after pictures that people have taken. Oh, wow, so they're pretty excited about that. So okay, I haven't thought of it as a vanity item. I'm looking for healing, but I guess for some people that's really much more important than it is for others. The gold is amazing. Now you might think getting rid of wrinkles is amazing, but the gold balm reduces pain. I've rarely come across a pain that it didn't bring relief, usually total relief. And we're talking about people that have, well, migraines I mentioned earlier, that when they apply it to the temples or if they apply it to where they're feeling pressure, that the pain reduces or subsides entirely. But for, not everybody has migraines. For things like shoulder soreness, hip soreness, knee soreness, pains in the fingers for whatever the reasons are. When they apply it, and it doesn't require a lot, it just requires a little bit. So it's very concentrated, you don't have to slather it on there, just rub it in, and I don't know if it's anti-inflammatory exactly. Pain is inflammation, so it must be to some degree anti-inflammatory. But pains reduce and usually disappear. So You know, I have people, well, there's one who had severe birth injuries and is well, she's not a child anymore. She's an adult and married, and she's something she just deals with. And she's using it a lot now because she's had, this is something she just learned to live with, this pain that came from, you know, birth on. And she is so excited at how she doesn't have to live with pain anymore using this CBD gold balm. You know, and I could go on and on with the people. Like I said, I haven't found one or two, I don't even know if I could say a few people that didn't seem to have benefit. And I didn't realize how much pain was an issue in people. My work has been with helping people with varying issues of their health that they have to correct problems in their healing. So I work with healing, restoration, and nutrition in people. So it's been a real eye-opener to me to see how commonplace pain is as an issue for people, because I think I have as many or more people using the gold balm for pain issues as I have people using the CBD oil for their nervous system. So it's pretty extraordinary. I'm very excited about it because especially now as I've come to learn what I didn't know before, how much of an issue pain is in people in America today. So it's a nervous system feeding that it does, and some places in the nation it's difficult to get because of restrictions. It's legal in all 50 states, but sometimes there are restrictions in a few states. That's politics. It's the same reason that it was called marijuana back in the 30s, was when they wanted to get people to stop using it, and there was a bias against illegal immigrants. Kind of sounds like 2017. Anyway, so they played to that by talking about this demon weed, marijuana. So now they're trying to tell people, oh, cannabis, well, that's marijuana. Well, no, this isn't marijuana. It's hemp. Okay, I've been wearing hemp for years. I remember 10, 15 years ago, I was in Alabama, and somebody that learned that I was wearing hemp said, well, you could get arrested. I said, what? He said, you get arrested for what you're wearing. So what are you talking about? It's clothes. He said, yeah, well, hemp is illegal in Alabama in any form. Now, I don't know if it still is, but I know at that time I was told I could be arrested for wearing the clothes I was wearing. That's how crazy the political environment is against something that, well, Psalm 104:14 says that the Almighty gave us grass for the cattle and a herb for the service of man. Now that verse serves two things. Number one, it shows that for those that don't know, it's become trendy. You can even find it in a regular grocery, in bigger grocery stores especially, grass-fed beef. Okay? Well, the truth is, it's in the Bible that beef is supposed to be raised on grass. When you raise them with grain, that's the problem with red meat. Eating red meat's not a problem. It's when you eat red meat that's raised wrong that's a problem. Grass-fed beef is healthy. So Psalm 104:14 is one of the verses, and the first part of it is that the Almighty gave us grass for the cattle and herb for the service of man. So some people, especially religious people, will get caught up on, oh, I can't take that. That's cannabis. That's marijuana. That's dope. That's weed. Well, it's in the Bible, and not only is it in the Bible, because some people have used that to start religions or to call it a sacred weed or something. But when you look at the body as they've discovered in the last 20 years now and find that there are receptors that the Creator put there. He created us with receptors that nothing fits there except CBD and, well, yes, THC will fit there. But you don't have to use THC. By the way, THC only works when it's heated, as far as to make you high. I was fascinated to hear a few years ago a scientist in England who had done extensive scientific research and study, and said THC is actually much more healing when it's not heated. See, the reason people heat THC is because that activates the cycle effect of the nervous system. But if it's not, and see, that's why you hear stories about people eating, they're getting busted, the police are at the door, so they eat, their marijuana, eat their weed. But you never read that they got high. Well, because they can't. Because that's why they roll it up and set a fire to it to smoke it. Well, that's why they bake cookies. See, if you put it in the oven and bake it, the heat activates the THC. But this doctor in England had discovered incredible healing qualities from THC only when it wasn't heated. So that's what the Almighty put from the top of our head to the sole of our feet, spread throughout the human body, were receptor sites that nothing fits there. Nor the vitamin, mineral, nutrient, nothing fits there except CBD oil, and yes, THC will. But for legality reasons, we won't even go into THC. CBD, it's legal in all 50 states. Restrictions in some, but it's legal. And it's from hemp. You don't have to resort to marijuana. Yes, marijuana does have CBD oil also. And that's another part of the sad tragedy of this, as people are beginning to discover this, is there are people that are pushing to say, well, you have to have both or it doesn't work. Well, if you hear that from anybody, it's a lie. It's scientifically inaccurate. It's not true. You don't have to have both. Can you accomplish more or other things or sometimes better results if you use both? Sometimes. But is CBD in and of itself, by itself, feed the nervous system? Yes. Is it healing in and of itself without THC? Yes. So you don't have to have both. You can work with just CBD. And since that's legal, for people are doing a disservice when they say you have to have both. Okay? Because then you'll weed out a lot of people that won't even use a CBD because they say, oh, it doesn't have the THC. Well, you don't have to, as more and more people are finding out. And again, because it feeds the nervous system. It doesn't suppress it. So you're strengthening your nervous system. That's why when I recommend people to start gold and then work your way down to green, if you can, not everybody can, but most people can, start with the green, build up those endocannabinoid receptors, and then just give small doses, 1 milligram, 3 milligrams, 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams a day. But I do heartily recommend people, especially if you have serious issues, take 60 milligrams a day of CBD and see how your nerves begin to heal, how your nervousness begins to dissipate, how calmness begins to become the norm instead of something that you grasp for and hope for someday. So I'm very, very excited and thankful for this opportunity to share an introduction to CBD. And I've seen a lot of other products in the marketplace now because it's begun to, because it's legal in all 50 states. So I look at the products and I usually shake my head because they'll have sugar, corn syrup. They put flavoring agents. Like I said, I don't know anybody who likes the flavor of CBD oil. And some people really don't like it. But I don't know very many people that say, oh, that's just too much, I can't take it. There's a few of those, but not a lot. So they're poisoning a great healing substance by putting sugar, corn syrup, and other flavoring agents in. To me, it's really, it's silly, tragic, stupid, maybe. So I'm very thankful for CV Sciences for their working to make a pure product, and again, keeping the price set so that the higher dose that you purchase, the lower the cost per milligram. And again, hopefully you're one of those who can work their way down to smaller amounts over time. And maybe you're even more blessed. You're someone who can start there. But again, I haven't found many that can start low and get results, at least not right away, or at least not very much. But people taking higher doses, again, the Creator put it within us, endocannabinoid receptors. Nothing else fits there except CBD and, yes, THC. But for our purposes, we can just flood it with CBD and feed the nervous system, feed the nerves, and people can begin to become calmer and even calm as a matter of routine. Instead of just getting their way through the day with a drug that suppresses so they can get through the day or get to sleep at night. So thank you everyone for your time. It's an introduction to CBD.